So, Congressman Liu and Vice Chancellor Parker, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sharon Dolovich. I'm on the faculty here at the UCLA School of Law, and I'm also the director of the UCLA Prison Law and Policy Program, which is co-sponsoring tonight's event. So on behalf of the law school and on behalf of the UCLA Prison Law and Policy Program, I too want to welcome you to today's important discussion on a really vital issue: how are we going to reform the broken bail system in this country? And now, as many of you know, or you will know, that the United States incarcerates more people than any other country in the world. Over the last decade or so, that number has hovered around 2.2 million people. But what you might not know is that of that 2.2 million people, almost 750,000 are held not in state and federal jail, or excuse me, not in state and federal prisons, but actually municipal jails. And of that 750,000 people, almost 500,000, so 450,000, are being held under pretrial detention, which means that they are in jail even though they've yet to commit a crime or be convicted of a crime. So it'd be one thing, so we have 500,000 people who are in pretrial detention, they haven't been convicted, and it would be one thing if, well, we said, you know, we found them to be a public safety threat, or maybe they're a flight risk, so that maybe some judge has determined that we can't actually be sure they're going to show up for trial if we let them go. But the truth is that most of the time, the reason that people are in jail pre-trial is because they're too poor to pay their bail. And this is actually a straightforward example of criminalizing poverty. If you have money, you pay your bail and you go home and you wait for your trial at home. If you have no money, you wait for your trial in jail. And I think this distinction alone would be enough to justify a really serious rethinking of the bail system that we have. But it actually gets worse, because people who are indigent or who are living paycheck to paycheck stand to lose a lot more than their freedom if they're locked up even for just a few days. So for one thing, if people can't show up to work, they're going to lose their jobs. Right? And without a source of income, they can lose their cars, which, by the way, will make it harder for them to get a new job and keep it. And if they lose their jobs because they can't go to work, they could get evicted. And if a person has no job and no means of transportation and no place to live, they can even lose their kids. So this sort of downward spiral has actually been very well documented over and over again, even if people are in jail for just a short time. So what we're doing, the policy that we have, it disproportionately affects, it obviously affects poor people, but it also disproportionately affects poor African Americans and Latinos and other people of color. So basically what this means is that our current money bail policy both punishes people for being poor, and it has a racially discriminatory impact. So this is all pretty bad, but it's even worse than this, because recent research out of Penn Law School's Quattrone Center found two really startling things that I want to share with you. So first, they found that defendants who are jailed pre-trial, right, which includes the people who they're not just found to be a flight risk or a public safety risk, but because they can't afford bail, are more likely to be convicted of the crime when it ultimately goes to trial than a similarly situated person who was able to make bail. So that's the first thing. And the second thing the Quattrone Center found was that people who had been jailed pre-trial wound up committing more crime when they eventually got out than people who were released on bail in advance of their trial. So when people are locked up pre-trial because they can't afford bail, they're more likely to be convicted of the crimes, and they're more likely to commit crimes in the future. So again, all this happens not because the person is considered a public safety threat, not because the person is considered a flight risk, but because they are poor. So I think we can say that this is a humanitarian and public policy disaster. So enter Congressman Ted Lieu with his No Money Bail Act of 2016. So this legislation is designed to eliminate the use of money bail in the federal system and to push states to eliminate their use of money bail.